Welcome to Sketchy Behavior. I'm Ryan, and this is my top 5 most overrated films of 2022. Okay, now before we get started, let me just say this is not a list of bad films. It's a list of movies that other people came out raving about, but I thought were mostly just fine. And with that in mind, let's proceed with the hot takes.
Number 5. Elvis.
This is a film that caught my attention with its very first trailer. Immediately, I was intrigued by what appeared to be a jaw-dropping performance by Austin Butler, while remaining a little weary as director Baz Luhrmann is an extremely eccentric filmmaker whose entire style seems to be hyper-stylization. Now, when I finally saw it, what I got was a mesmerizing performance by Austin Butler, who completely transformed himself into Elvis in a film that, unfortunately, is hyper-stylized to its own detriment. The camera's whipping, panning, zooming, spinning, CGI shit's flying across the screen, and the goddamn editing never seems to sit still. Just let a single scene breathe, Baz! Between the camera work and editing, this film left me with a severe case of cinematic whiplash. Now, I know people have been raving about this movie and it's on their best of the year list, but honestly, for me personally, if it weren't for Austin Butler's phenomenal performance as Elvis, I wouldn't have liked this movie even half as much as I did, and I already only like it half as much as everyone else seems to.
Number 4. Pearl.
Look, I agree, it's a beautifully shot film. Gorgeous cinematography, rich, vivid colors bursting off the screen, and a stylistic approach that harkens back to the earliest decades of Hollywood with films such as The Wizard of Oz. On a technical level, it's great, and Mia Goth gives a fantastic performance. But I do not give a shit about 10-minute monologues in which the camera never moves. Yes, I understand the hypocrisy here. Now, maybe it's just my ADHD, but the pacing for this film did not work for me. And for a character study, I didn't really feel that I learned anything more about Pearl that I didn't already instinctually know about her, or at least think that I knew about her, when I watched X. Instead of a prequel that informs the original and bolsters it with a new perspective, it just played like an origin story that takes imagination out of the equation. It's a very solid film that simply does not work for me as well as it did for a lot of others. I understand the praise, I just disagree on how effective it was for me personally.
Number 3. Smile.
Yes, it has creepy moments. Yes, the ending is legitimately terrifying. No, it does not earn any of that along the way. Due to overly aggressive sound design, non-stop cheap jump scares, and a psychologist protagonist who doesn't seem to understand psychology, this was a very messy watch for me. As I noted in my original Facebook review, I thought this was going to play very well to mainstream audiences, and it most certainly did. Plenty of people came out of this movie absolutely loving it. But for me, it could have just as been easily called Jump Scare the Movie with the tagline, "The loudest can of cat food ever put on film." You gotta give me more than a few scenes of legit tension, 6,787 jump scares, and an unlikable protagonist if you're gonna get me anywhere near the level of hype that this film saw after release.
Number 2. Black Panther. Wakanda Forever.
I love the first Black Panther, other than the abysmal CGI of two Black Panthers clawing each other to death in the third act. I love that entire film. So I was beyond excited to take a return trip to Wakanda. Now, Chadwick Boseman had quickly become one of my all-time favorite actors after seeing him in Captain America: Civil War. And his absence is most definitely felt in Wakanda Forever. However, the rest of the cast steps up and honors his legacy by giving performances that raise the bar for acting in the MCU, with Angela Bassett absolutely crushing it, which she's going to do every time you give her some time, a little bit of room, and let her shine. That woman is a damned living legend in my book. Unfortunately for me, the cast was the best part of that film. Writer-director Ryan Coogler had to scrap the entire original script and come up with a new one in a relatively short amount of time. This film was an absolute uphill battle for all involved, and given the circumstances, I think they did a pretty serviceable job of delivering a fairly entertaining blockbuster with some of the best acting in the MCU. But for me personally, I was hoping to explore Wakanda further. Their politics, culture, everyday society. Not only did we not really go into depth on Wakanda, but we were introduced to a brand new species with their own kingdom, culture, and underwater society, while never really breaching the surface of what it all really means. We have visited Wakanda multiple times at this point, and I know as much about it now as I did in the first movie. How long am I supposed to wait for them to do a deep dive on Talocan too? I think Wakanda Forever was entertaining enough, but ultimately disappointing due to many logical fallacies, questionable character motivations and development, and messy plotting. I understand the need to do a bit of a rush job here, but that doesn't change the end result for me.
Number 1. Avatar: The Way of Water.
On the complete opposite side of a rush job, we have a franchise sequel that took 13 years to make its splash in theaters. During that time, director James Cameron and crew developed all kinds of new filmmaking technology, aiming for levels of CGI and 3D previously unseen. And wow, did they ever achieve their goals. The visuals are stunning. Unfortunately, over that 13 years, he forgot to also develop this little thing called the script. Yet again, we have an Avatar movie that sets the bar on the technical side while having a mostly rote screenplay that has a plot and characters that we've seen many times before. A majority of the characters are fairly bland, the dialogue's cheesy, and I think there's like one half of a full character arc in here. At the end of the day, I was entertained, but in a mostly amusement park, video game cutscene kind of way. Other than Kiri and a space whale, I didn't really care about any characters in this movie. And it took like an hour to get to material that I even remotely cared about. Once we get to the ocean environment, Cameron's infectious enthusiasm and burning passion for all things aquatic fully immerses the audience into the beauty and wonder of that environment. And the otherwise atrocious high frame rate presentation that makes everything above water look like a sped up video game finally starts working. It does its job smoothing out the water CGI and physics. Everything underwater looks spectacular, and it can be absolutely awe-inspiring. I understand why it's on other people's best of the year list, but for me, it's not even close. I don't care how pretty that damn space whale is. Alright, well there you have it. That's my top 5 most overhyped films of 2022. Did your favorite movie of the year wind up on the list? Do you have a most overhyped film that wasn't on the list? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned for my top 10 favorite films of 2022. Who knows, maybe your most overhyped movie of the year found its way on my best of the year list. Scandalous! I'm Ryan Riley for Sketchy Behavior, and until next time, keep it sketchy.